All right. Hey everyone, I'm Ifaz and I'm the project manager for the Arduino Sonar guided build. So the goal of this guided build was to learn the basics of using Arduinos to interact with other electronics and then using processing as a graphical interface and then combining those two aspects to create our own cool little sonar system. So to start off, we went into the very basics of using an Arduino. So we learned some of the built-in functions of Arduino, as well as how to interact with the other electronics through it. So the first electronic we used was an ultrasonic sensor. So we learned the basics of how an ultrasonic sensor works. And then we created some code that used the basic principles of the ultrasonic sensor to kind of interact with it and get data. And after that, we also learned about an inbuilt library within Arduino that can interact with ultrasonic sensors and takes care of all the hard work for us. And so it kind of abstracts a lot of the work that we need to put in. So that was just to learn about like the convenience of using an Arduino because of how much support there is for it. And then we did the same thing with servo motors. So the servo motor would be used with the ultrasonic sensor. And we did the same thing. We learned the very basics of using this, how a servo motor works, created some code for the working with it directly. And then we used a servo library that took care of most of the work for us. And then on the next week, we learned about processing. So this is what we would use for the front end of our sonar system. So we just learned about how to make some basic drawings within processing, and then creating some dynamic drawings that could be manipulated over time. And then these dynamic drawings, we also used user input with it. So this user input could be anything from like a mouse to a keyboard. And the reason we did this is that we could then use this within Arduino and basically treat any input from, or any output from an Arduino as user input within our drawings to kind of manipulate them. And then we ended with some cool little customization options within processing, some of their advanced features, such as creating custom shapes or 3D shapes. So that was just to show the limits of what you could do with processing, given how easy it is to kind of pick this up. And then week 3, this was combining everything we learned from before. So we took serial communication from the Arduino to send data over that we collected from our ultrasonic sensor to processing, which would then take that data and manipulate what we need. So we used serial communication. We created a basic serial program within Arduino, and then that program just sent data over to our computer, and then processing took that data to alter any drawings, or also use it to save it to be used later. And then at the end, we created our actual sonar system Arduino code. So this, what this does is that the ultrasonic sensor is on top of the motor, and it goes back and forth, collecting distance data, and sends that over serial to our computer. So this was the Arduino code. Here's our like wiring diagram that we use. And then in week 4, we created the front end in processing. So this was just a graphical display of our data. So it's just a classic sonar system, one that you would see in a submarine. And here's a cool demonstration video of it.
Hey guys, my name's Avi. This semester I work with Ifaz on the Arduino Sonar, and I'm going to show you guys a little bit about the stuff that we put together during this guided build. So we used 2 programs called Processing, and then we used the Arduino IDE. And Processing is just kind of for like visualizing data. So basically, we mounted this sonar sensor onto a servo motor and connected it with the processing program that I was telling you guys about. And basically, all it does is, if an object is in close proximity, it shows on this little graph here. So I don't know if you guys can see when the sonar gets like closer to my body, it shows up on this little dot right here, and then like when it gets farther away, I think you guys know how sonar works. But yeah, it was a really, really good experience. So thank you, Ifaz and makers.
Yeah, so that was just some cool little demonstration video of that. And then another one that I went over was this range display. So this was just to show how complex you could get with these systems. So on the left, we have something that's essentially the same as the previous one, but in a more linear graph. And then we also combined it with some other dynamics going on the right side. So we have our angle and range, that would be dynamic bars. And this was to show how you could have like completely separate modules that work at the same time. And then in the end, I taught them more about some customizations that they could do. And here was a little demonstration I showed them where it's essentially the same as the previous one, but it also uses the custom shapes that we learned about earlier. And this was just to create a more dynamic graphical interface for it. So yeah, thanks for listening.